Well, we only have one boss. So right now we can just go boss.active equals true. Now we'll get an error message because it says boss doesn't exist yet. Well, that's easy enough to take care of, isn't it? We know what to do because we've done this before. We'll say boss, uppercase, lowercase on it. Okay. Now let's go again, following that same process. Boss is equal to a new boss, couple parentheses. Easy. Okay. So now the only thing really left to do is to figure out, where we want to put our update and display for the boss in it. What I am going to do, just so we can see it right away, is we'll just go boss.active equals true. We'll get rid of that line here in a moment, but hey, why not? I want to see the boss. So let's draw boss.update, boss.display. And I'm going to just make max enemies 1 so I have less to worry about. Also, I can then dispatch it quicker once we get to that point. And now we have the boss. Let's try again and see. There is the boss. Probably don't want the boss and player, but we can see the boss is animating, moves slowly, randomly. It's kind of hard to keep track of. It's going to make it very difficult to shoot when it's just wandering around in such a haphazard. So it's not really chasing me. It's not, kind of feeling like it wants to follow. It's just a chaos boss, which is kind of fun. You could add in chasing behavior similar to what the unicorns use if you wanted to do that, bring chasing behavior like what's in the enemy. I'm just going to leave it random right now because it's kind of fun. And that's going to be hard, especially if it moves like that, where it can be a speed of possible 10. And if we look at the projectiles on here, we can see that the projectiles have a max speed of 10. So we probably want to make the projectiles go a little bit faster than the boss or slow the boss down. So 10 might not be the best option. A good coding practice, instead of hard coding 10 in here, is we do max speed. I guess I could have left that variable in before we get there until we define it. So this would be int max speed, like that. And then we just have to give it a value of max speed equals, I'll just put in 89, 8. Okay, so now we theoretically can shoot it, but we don't have any collisions going on with it. We're not taking its health away or doing any of that. But that's easy enough to do. We know how to do that because we have done it before. So we have the player and the pickup, projectile and the enemy. What we can do here is copy this, paste, paste. And now this is going to be our projectile and our boss. So now we're checking when those two objects run into each other. So we can see right now if that projectile is active, if we go to this, that lines up with that one. So this is now our enemy loop. I'm just going to put a bunch of comments there so we can do it. And now we're going to create our checking to find out. So if rectangle intersect, and it was projectiles, brackets I, boss. So if the intersect is true and boss is active, so if those two things are happening, just put in our little comment right there. So if that is happening then what we want to do is go boss.health minus equal, well, our projectiles do 20. We probably want to hard code that or put a variable of how much a projectile does for damage, because we have 20 and 20, so yeah, we can try and figure out. Probably should have that, but we will leave that as is right now. It'd kind of be nice if we had a score. So every time we're hitting an enemy or the boss, we're getting a score. So maybe we want to factor that in here in a little bit. But what we can do is go if boss.health less than equal to 0, boss.active equals false. So that makes the boss no longer active. And if we do intersect with the boss, we also, just like when we intersect with the projectile, if the projectile is active, if it intersects, the first thing we did is we made the projectiles active false. So it should follow that same process. Projectiles, square braces I dot active equals false, so it gets rid of that projectile, so it's no longer going. The boss loses health. If the boss's health goes under 0, the boss is no longer active. So now I'm going to modify the boss just so that this is doable with only 10 ammunition, 500. I'm just going to give the boss a health of 100 just so that we can try to affect it. So now let's move over here and go yeah, that one unicorn is really kind of pesty. So now we can see then the boss is, his health went down, so we saw the health go down, but the boss did not become inactive yet. But the boss did go, technically it went inactive. It now has negative if I keep shooting at it, and it loses the enemy. I can't get rid of as well because I forgot that the boss, we're just displaying the boss no matter what, because we just have boss update and display. We only want to display the boss and update the boss when the boss is active. So we need to wrap that if. So if the boss is active, and only then do we display it. So when the boss is active, then we display it, and we need to do the same thing to our enemies, because it's just like in projectiles, we only show the ones that are active. So if the enemy is active, then we do stuff with it. Otherwise we don't. So put in some comments there, maybe a return for space, make it easier to see. So we only see them if they're active. Now I did make it when I prepped it, so we make the boss active when there's no more enemies. So now let's start out where the boss is inactive. So now we just have one enemy. Of course, it's the enemy I'm going to run out of ammo on. But the good part is, I can go get more ammo and more health. And now the boss showed up. And so we might not want to start the boss, it appears, at a negative or at 0, because then it sat there for 60 frames, but we can see the boss is no longer active and it went away. So it's working. So we can just delete that. We know we don't want that. Let's go into the boss here, and instead of starting VX and VY at 0, we'll start it so it just has some random amount when it starts out. But this time, or I mean, I could also, under the move hold, don't start at 0, but I could start out at, say, 50. So it would be kind of after 10 frames, then it would go. Then it would kind of reset that move hold back to 0. But instead of max speed here, though, I'm just going to go for, yeah, we'll make it start out slower on the first go to give you, so it doesn't just randomly just shoot out like a rocket. Okay, so that takes care of the boss. Just have to get rid of this enemy. So that was better. It didn't just park there for 2 seconds. So if I am going to let the boss have, say, a health of 500, probably need to set my max ammo at a higher amount. So if I go into the boss here and find my max health, if we did say, let's put it at 300, so it's a little more reasonable, and then go into the start of the game here, and I'm going to leave the enemies at 1 just because otherwise it's harder to get to it. But then when we go and look at our ammo max, maybe I want to set that at 50. So we have a little bit more to work with. And once we have lots of enemies, we probably need that to maybe even be 100. So we'd need a lot. And, you know, as we mentioned, it'd be nice to keep track of a score just to get that visual pickup or visual display of what is happening with it. So we'll set our score equal to 0. But now every time that I hit an enemy, or if I hit the boss, I want to then see my score go up. So it's under projectiles when we see what's happening in our projectiles. So when the enemies lose health, then we can go. So again, we probably want to just change this from 20 to like a projectile something, like, you know, projectile damage. So we're getting a score based on that. And I get the red underline because I forgot to put in my semicolon. And now that we have text on the left here, what I'm going to do is copy that, paste that in, and paste it in one more time. Here I'm going to go center, and I'm just going to put in the name of my game, Unitron, and then this will be score plus score. No plus ammo on Unitron, it's just Unitron. And then height will be the same, but with centered. And then this will be, so we moved that in 20, so then we'll go with minus 20. Let's see what that looks like. So, whoop. We don't want to align that left. I wanted to align that to the right. I don't need that to show up anymore. That was an accidental panic click. So ammunition, Unitron score. Let's see, we're over here. And now I can see the score is going up every time I shoot it. And then there comes the bad guy. Sweet. So right now we have the boss, we have scoring. If it added a bunch of functionality. Next, we're going to see about letting the boss shoot back.